Hello, everyone, and thank you for taking time today to join the TIBCO Virtual Meetup Zero Code Development of Blockchain Smart Contracts. I'm pleased to introduce today's speaker, Yueming Xu, Principal Solutions Architect, Office of the CTO, TIBCO Software. Before I hand the mic over to Yueming, I have a few housekeeping items to cover about this presentation. We are recording today's webinar, and it will be available on YouTube later this week. After the presentation and demo portion of today's webinar, there will be an opportunity to ask questions. Yueming, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And first, let me share this TIBCO legal statement. And today, we're going to talk about the Project Dovetail for blockchain application development. As an introduction, we first describe why we created Project Dovetail to support the visual programming for blockchain applications. We then provide an overview about one of the components that is a dovetail for Hyperledger Fabric and describe how it can be used to implement and deploy Hyperledger Fabric chaincode. Finally, we present a short demo on chaincode modeling in TIBCO Cloud. First of all, the Project Dovetail is an open source extension to the TIBCO Connected Intelligence Platform. This platform is composed of 3 categories of integrated services: connect, unify, and predict. It interconnects various real-time data sources via messaging and API management, and it unifies the data by using system integration, complex event processing, and business rules. And then it applies data analytics, machine learning, and data visualizations to support smarter and faster decision-making. In this platform, blockchain distributed ledger is considered a new type of data source. And so the Project Dovetail extends the left circle, connect, to make it easy to create and integrate blockchains. There are many enterprise use cases and business problems that can be solved by applying distributed ledger technology. It includes supply chain management, manufacturing operations, healthcare claims, financial fund transfer, just to name a few. However, the distributed ledger alone is not a complete business solution. It will need to be integrated with other components and applications to achieve business goals. In fact, many blockchain initiatives have started and terminated without achieving potential benefits for business. So why it is so hard to launch an enterprise blockchain initiative? There are many questions that you have to answer when kicking off a blockchain project. You need to decide which DLT platform should be used and which programming language to use to write smart contracts, and where to deploy, on-premise or in the cloud. And also, the learning curve is pretty steep because it requires much more than just the blockchain concepts. And you have to deal with how data are integrated with off-chain applications, and also integrated with your data analytics and supporting real-time decisions. The last 2 factors are actually one of the most crucial factors that decides the success or failure of a blockchain initiative. How does Dovetail make it easy? Well, Dovetail uses visual programming for implement the smart contract and also client services. So you don't have to learn a new language. And also, the visual programming hides all the details about the specific DLT technology. And it can be deployed on-premise or in the cloud. And it is a natural extension to TIBCO Connected Intelligence. So all the platform tools are available to you. And with a visual programming model that supports multiple DLT technologies. So you got flexibility to choose one technology, or you can migrate to a different technology later on as your business needs change. This is an example of a Dovetail chain code. In the Dovetail, a transaction is modeled as a flow. On the left side of the flow, it is a trigger that receives the input data and caches the request in memory. The right side of the flow is a sequence of activities. Each activity is similar to a function call that takes input data mapped from the trigger and previous activities, perform action and return result. This flow is a transaction to create a new marble object on the chain. It first calls a get activity to check if it already exists on the chain. It returns error if it is a duplicate request. Otherwise, it calls a put activity to add a new marble on the chain. Besides the get and put activities, Dovetail provides all the other activities to interact with the ledger, including private data collections, endorsement policy, events, and various other types of queries. The same visual modeling can also be used to implement the client services, and that invokes the chain code and also integrated with off-chain application and data sources. You can deploy Dovetail flows in the cloud as shown here. First, you create VM hosts and in the cloud provider of your choice, as well as Bastion host and other cloud resources. You can then create a Kubernetes cluster to host the blockchain. On top of the Kubernetes, you create Fabric network that includes orders, peers, and CS servers that is used to generate crypto data. The TopTier project provides scripts for all these operations. You can then use TIBCO Cloud to model chain code flows and download the model as a JSON file and feed the model to Bastion host where you can package the chain code and install and deploy onto the Fabric network. Similarly, you can model client services in TIBCO Cloud and feed the app model to the Bastion host and deploy the service as a Kubernetes service. After that, all other off-chain applications can interact with the blockchain via the client service, which can go through any supported indices, such as REST API or asynchronous messaging. The client service may also act as a Fabric event listener, and it feeds blockchain events into off-chain application or database, and then apply data analytics and machine learning to support the real-time decision-making. So now let's take a look at how smart contracts can be modeled and visually in the TIBCO Cloud. Oh, I need to log in. So I'm logging into the TIBCO Cloud, which is an integration platform. So here you choose the integration and you go to Flowgo. So here I already imported some samples here. This marble sample is actually a Flogo version, a Dovetail version of the original Fabric sample. So in here, this is a smart contract that contains 14 different flows. That means 14 different transactions. Let's look at the init marble that we show on the slides. In here, on the left is the transaction trigger. The trigger, basically from the trigger, you define the data source that the transaction get input. So in this particular input is trying to create a new marble for marble trading, and it includes these transaction, these attributes: name, color, size, and owner for a new marble. So before we really create it on the blockchain, we call this get activity. So this activity actually queries the blockchain to get the object by key, and we map the key, map the name of the input to the key, and use that key to query the blockchain. So after you got it, you can check the condition. In the condition field, you can check if the get is successful with 200. If it's successful, that means the marble is already exists. So we throw error. And if it doesn't, we can call the put activity and pass all the data into the call. So you use the name as a key, and you map all the data, name, color, and size and owner from the input. And these data get passed into the put call that puts the marble onto the blockchain. So as you can see in here, you don't have to write any code, and everything is just visualized and by modeling. And if you want to model, change it, say for this particular case, I'm just throwing the error when it's a duplicate. So besides, you can also do other things. If we say, I can choose a set event. That means that I want to create an event before I throw the error. So in the event, I want to just pass a message attribute to it. And then you can just input. You can say name, you can say my alert. This is my alert event that created on the blockchain. And then I can map my message. I can say, I can call a function, I can concat dupe. And I can map this string from my original key. So I say, okay, I got a duplicate in this particular call. Let's save it. Okay, so now I changed my model to add a blockchain event. So after I'm done, I can just go to the application layer and say export. So the export was created a file called marble.json. And then you can feed that JSON file into the deployment. That's all. So let's go back and take some. All right, I can take some questions.
Okay, thank you, Yueming. Are there any questions? Okay, Yueming, we have one question. What blockchain platform does Project Dovetail work with?
We actually support the platform is generic. We currently support R3 Corda, and also we support client connections with demo. So those are the two are supported besides the Hyperledger Fabric.
Great, thank you. Okay, so there's no more questions. So we'd like to thank you, everyone, for attending, and please remember to visit TIBCO.com and the TIBCO Labs GitHub for additional information. Thank you.